Well,
All right, ladies. Well, happy Thursday night to everybody. So if you're here tonight, congratulations. Tonight is one of the most important elements that we're going to cover in the book. And total transparency here, Allie and I have already discussed this. We're going to break this into 2 weeks because there's a lot to unpack here. This is those who come into this process and they're all looking, we're all looking to lose weight when we come into this process for the most part. And I know in my personal situation, God, I wanted to lose 40 pounds. That would have been a miracle. And but I wasn't sure once I started seeing this. Of course, the Life Book came out after Allie and I both finished our journeys. So we had to go back and dive into this. And it was already hard because we're like, we kind of hit our goal. Do we really need this? Yes, we really need it. I can assure you that. And so when we got to this element, there's a lot to unpack here. And, for some folks, when they go through the Life Book and they get to element 4, there's a lot of pause there. Some folks put the Life Book down because they get mad. We're going to talk about that tonight. They put the Life Book down because their integrity, quite frankly, is not where it should be when it comes to themselves and their food choices when nobody's watching. So they don't want to, if it's not in front of me, I don't have to accept it. And so that for some people, that's very hard. And but as your coach, I think it's important, number one, to congratulate everybody for being here, because this is where last week we started putting the rubber to the road with figuring out what you want to create. Now we're going to start really peeling back that layer of onion, if you will. And this can be emotional for some people. It can be, it can bring out all kind of things. And but we're going to start unpacking that. And so let's go ahead and dive in. Element 4, building a healthy mindset. Of course, mindset, skill set, and action, of course, is understand how the people, places, and things in your surroundings can be modified to serve you in creating your new story. Recognize you are the dominant force in your life. Of course, the skill set, we're going to be realizing the power and importance of self-awareness. So many of you have already experienced self-awareness in your food choices. Maybe you were a soda drinker before. Now you're recognizing that, hey, the importance of water every day and what it truly does for your body every day. Understanding the drama triangle and the empowerment triangle. So important. And then, of course, the action give you the tools for building a healthy mindset, and also adopting a growth mindset for success. And I've tapped that on the end of this. This wasn't even in the book, but I wrote that in there. Adopting a growth mindset for success. We all want to win when it comes to the physical part. But imagine how great you will feel when you, just like Dr. A said, you become that dominant force in your life. You don't let outside situations and circumstances constantly chisel away at your success and your quote motivation and drive to go forward. This is where we truly sharpen that discipline. So Allie, whenever you're ready.
So really the magic sauce for this element and really for this whole journey is we have got to build awareness of ourselves and our thoughts. You can't control something if you don't know what's going on. So, a big part of this element is going to give us tools. First of all, what I love about this element so much is, I don't know how many of you, have that inner voice that if you don't have a perfect day, if you have a less than perfect day on 5 and 1 and you beat yourself up, that inner voice it's not necessary, and we're going to get rid of it because it doesn't serve us, and it is something that keeps us from being able to be the dominant force in our life, right? It's bringing all these emotions up to the surface that really don't belong to the situation. Building an awareness of what we're doing is not so that we can make a big list of stuff to beat ourselves up about. It's actually the exact opposite. It's so we can look at these things that we might do without even thinking about it, bring an awareness to it, give our brains, our bodies something else to do in place when that trigger comes, and then we move forwards. And so I just, this, Kenny and I, a lot of times we get choked up doing element 4 because it's that important. So like, I love the way Dr. A says it, but he says it with real fancy words, but he says when you have internal stability, that means no matter what's going down around you, you're able to maintain a stability. You don't lose it. Okay. You don't lose your Schmidt. You stay stable. When you have an internal stability and external equilibrium, right? You don't go off the deep end over here, you maintain an equilibrium. When you can master that in your life, life becomes magical, and it truly does. And as I've walked towards that every year, I get closer and closer and closer. I mean, I know it's going to be a lifetime journey, but y'all, it is so different. I have things going on in my life right now that if they were hitting me 6 years ago, before I'd started this journey, I'd be in a pit. I'd be in a pit. But I have these tools now and this awareness now, and I have this control now. I'm the dominant force in my life. I recognize things for what they are, and they don't have power over me anymore. People are like, Allison, you're going through some hard stuff. How can you be so positive? It's not that I'm positive. It's just that I'm grateful. I see the blessings in every situation. I see opportunities where I'm being freed from something that wasn't good for me to go on to something that's better for me. Like, it's just about the way you take in what's happening and digest it, and then use it to create and build something new. So let's get started. I love this first question on page 104. Who is responsible for your current health and well-being? It's really fun when we have a victim mindset, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. You might say it's everybody else, but newsflash, it's us. It's yourself. We're responsible for it, whether we like it or not. But you know what? It's powerful to claim that you are responsible for your current health and well-being. It's not a yucky thing to say. It's not anything to be embarrassed about. It's giving you power back to yourself. It's like, yeah, I claim it. I'm responsible for my current health and well-being. And it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing to embrace that and to claim it, because when we put it on something outside of ourselves, and what does that mean? Something outside of ourselves is the only thing that can make it different. And we lose all power and ability to change it. So when we claim it as our own, we take that power back. Let's talk about how your mind works. Okay. So, I'm just going to read this verbatim because I like the way he says it, and it's just on page 104. Today, most of the things that could have killed you, like saber-toothed tigers, for example, are in the past. Today, our alarm system has been hijacked, and survival is no longer about protecting our body from getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, but it's about protecting our ego, our identity, and our beliefs. I've read so many things lately about how ego is such a problem. So we'll talk about that in a minute. The focus has shifted from a need to be right, or to a need to be right, to the need to not look bad, the need for social approval, and the fear that we don't have enough stuff. For many, this becomes a feeling where we think life is happening to us. So in Dr. A's Habits of Health book, so not the life book, but the other book, part 1.6, if you guys are going to get it, we're doing this in 2 weeks, right? This life book element. So if this week you want to open up your Habits of Health book to element 1.6, you in charge of yourself, setting up for success. Dr. Anderson explains how biologically we evolved over time, from ancient times until now. What's changed, what hasn't changed. We biologically have not changed, but the way we do life and the way we live life has changed. And so the way we biologically respond to the dangers in our environment, it doesn't really serve us anymore. And we're going to take that back. So I really enjoyed reading that, because I like to know that the stuff that I always thought was, oh, Allison, you stink at this, or that, that inner voice being mean to me. It's really just because biologically I'm wired that way. And if I know how to handle it and I know how to direct it, I can actually use it to grow and heal. Most people are sleepwalking through their days, unaware, not conscious of what's happening around them. They're not sensitive to the reactive state they live in. Reactive rather than responding, right? On a daily basis, to the things in their lives. They don't know how to treat themselves. Life is happening to them. And then he says, how about you? And I can completely see, standing here 6 years later, how life was happening to me. And I like to think it about in terms of being at the beach And let's say you're a little kid and you waddle out and you're trying to get out into the water and the waves keep coming and knocking you down, and you go to stand up and the next one hits, and you go to stand up and the next one hits. You have got to learn how to get past the breakers to then be able to enjoy the beach, right? Enjoy the ocean. So that's what we're doing. The reactive is getting stuck in the breakers. The responding is getting past the breakers, and now you're in control. Things aren't knocking you down. Look at these questions he asks us on page 105. Your intelligence is, and then he asks you some things about it. It's really interesting to look at what we believe about our intelligence, and then maybe learn something new that we didn't know was actually true about our intelligence. Also, your character as a person is it something that's set that you can't do anything about? Is it flexible so you can do things differently, but the important parts can't be changed? Is it determined by your family and can't be altered? Or is it changeable and you can always modify basic things about the kind of person you are? Again, on page 106, when presented with a challenge, what do I do? He gives you some choices. When I'm in an argument, what do I do? Gives you some choices. When something bad happens in the world, how do I react to that? When I find myself overeating, who do I blame? Right?
Get that
So
bone down.
it's oh, and then the last one is when I find myself getting upset because someone makes me look stupid, I do this. Rhonda, did you have a question? You good? I just want to make sure I'm not missing a question. All right. So on page 107, you'll see this diagram, and it's really, we call this above the line and below the line. So one of the first awarenesses we're going to build in this chapter that's going to teach us is during the day when something happens and we react to it or respond to it, in that response, are we responding in a way that's above the line or below the line? So above the line is, are we open? Are we curious? Do we have a growth mindset? Are we like, I wonder what I can learn from that? Or when something happens, are we mad and we have to be right and we're defensive? If somebody says something, we're like, that's not it, it's because of this. It's really amazing. I was very below the line. I started this program a lot during the day. I had, yeah, go ahead, Kenny.
And many of y'all may or may not know this, but I've been coaching Little League softball and Little League baseball for close to 20 years. And so my girl, and I'm helping coach our JV team this year. So I've got some girls on the team that are 8th graders. 2 of the girls are twins and they're 6'1" at 13 years old. So, and here again, this is where so I'm going to give an example because I want you all to hear. So we're in the cage and we're batting. Both of them are very straight. They won't get down and get athletic. And I'm like, so last night I made the comment to both of them. I didn't do it so the other could hear it. Before they got in the cage and I said, why are you so straight? Well, Mama says I'm so tall that I can't get down. I said, wait a minute. I said, that's something that you were told. So if you tell them that now, they will go through life thinking they're not athletic. Both of them are phenomenal ball players. So all I did last night was said, look at me. And I said, you are not so tall that you can't get athletic. And I said, if you get athletic and find your power and get down, and I said, watch me. And I said, mimic what I'm doing. Showed them how to get down in their stance. And then we started whacking the ball and they're like, good gosh. And I'm like, use your height to your advantage. Don't let what somebody tells you about how you look or how you may be a little different than everybody else be a disadvantage to you. You show them, hey, I can still do this like the short people, even though I'm 6'1" and maybe 6'5" when they finish growing, who knows? But here again, they were closed off and defensive at first. And then once I showed them, hey, you can do this, they were a little bit more open and curious. And then once they saw the results, they stayed down in their swing last night. So just one example of how you can take a mindset where you're closed off. I've heard people say the Moore family's always been big boned. Total bull crap, So it's just here again, we hear people say that all the time. So go ahead.
Well, and I love that. And I want what, when we think about this above the line, below the line behavior, because I had a below the line mindset a lot, every time I would catch myself responding or reacting to something in a below the line way, what did I do? I beat myself up, which is also below the line. So Dr. Anderson says, look, it's not your fault. You're most likely still allowing your ancient brain to run the show. You're not alone. It doesn't make you a better or worse person if you're below the line a lot. It simply means you're just operating on autopilot. And this chapter is about what? Building awareness so that we are going to come off of that autopilot. I didn't ever think about the way I responded or reacted to things as being, in a below the line way or an above the line way. So I learned something new, and now I had something to look out for, to listen for. I had a tool that I could use. Dr. Anderson says, welcome to the human race, boys and girls. This is how we're doing it. This is important. This is a tool we don't have, we don't know, but we've got it now, and we can really use it to our advantage. And it'll help us go from reacting to things to responding to things, because now we're building an awareness. And that awareness actually helps us take back power from our mind and our thoughts and use it in a way that serves us better and brings joy. In psychology, how an individual responds to their world is referred to as the locus of control. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard about that, but in other words, do I make my life happen, or is it happening to me? Who is in charge? So as we get healthy, one of the things we're doing is we are taking charge. We're not putting the control in the hands of something outside of ourselves. We are taking charge. I don't know if you guys remember when we were talking about our why back in element 1, and then we were talking about how in element 2, we talked about when you talk about doing this journey, are you saying, I should do it, I ought to do it, I need to do it, my doctor wants me to do it, my husband wants me to do it. That locus of control is we're putting the power outside of ourselves. When we say, I want to do it, this is what I want to do for me, we are taking the power and it is ours. So that is the kind we're going to start talking about and listening to and paying attention to, even just the words that our thoughts are using when we think about things like this. When we place blame on others, we give away our power and we surrender our control. And we place the cause and reason outside of ourselves. The Moors are just big boned. Well, isn't that convenient? Now they don't have to take responsibility for their health because, well, it's already been determined. Some outside person said we're just big boned and that's all there is to it. Not true. When we decide we're the dominant force in our lives, we are taking back the power and responsibility, and then the cause now lies within ourselves. Now, this is my favorite thing. Look on page 109. This is the drama triangle. Ooh, anybody who's ever raised a teenager and looked at this triangle and thought about themselves as a teenager. Yeah, Darla, I know. But it's the victim, villain, hero. And it's really, really interesting. I remember the first time I saw this triangle, I thought, well, why is hero on there? I thought heroes were a good thing. But when we hero somebody else, we're doing two things. We are robbing them of the ability to fix something themselves and learn, to fail and grow, right? Because we're heroing them. We don't want them to feel failure. We don't want them to be uncomfortable, but we're robbing them of the chance to learn how to do something on their own. But also when we're a hero, we're so busy fixing somebody else. Who are we not fixing? Ourselves. So hero sounds like a great idea, but it's actually not. And it's an avoidance thing. Villain. It's always everybody else's fault. Everybody, if this person would just be nicer to you at work, then you could perform better. If this person would, fill your pantry with healthier things, this wouldn't be such a struggle for you. If my spouse was on board with me doing this program, I wouldn't struggle so much on this, right? That's kind of being a villain. But that's also, I guess I get victim and villain kind of confused because to me they feel very similar. But a victim is, it's not fair. My life is really hard. My life is really busy. My life is this, and this. So I can't do this. It's hard. It's too hard for me. but we're letting all of these outside things steal away our ability to take power and take control of it. So for example, if you're just like, well, I'm busy, 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 and my busyness is why I can't do this program. But then if you stop and you go, well, I do sit and watch Netflix for 3 hours every night. Maybe I could watch 2 hours of Netflix and have an hour, and that can take away from my busy time. Do you know what I mean? Like, we start looking at our schedule, we look at what we're putting our time into. Busyness isn't always productive or good. Like, these are just things that we do. It's a victim mentality, but we're not going to beat ourselves up over having that. But we're building an awareness of how many times we say those things. And then we're stopping and we're challenging those thoughts, right? And y'all, it takes time. This is going to take time. If we've been having a victim mentality or villain mentality or hero mentality, because that's what we've pulled from for so many years, and we didn't know. All right, ain't nobody need to beat up on themselves. But now that we're building an awareness of it, it's going to take a minute to start to change that and take the power back within yourself. So be patient. Don't beat yourself up. This is supposed to be amazing and transformative. And it may be a little uncomfortable. I mean, it will be uncomfortable, because it is uncomfortable to be like, wow, I've really been a victim. I've been acting like a victim about that. But then you can go, but you know what? I'm going to work to not do that. I'm going to work to change that. And then it becomes a positive, beautiful thing. And you can look back and go, look at what you did. Look at what you build an awareness of. Look at how you changed. Look at how you feel now. Look at how life is now something I'm creating, and it's beautiful, rather than it feeling like it's just happening to me and I'm trapped and I can't move forwards. I'm moving forwards now. So then we're going to talk about the opposite of the drama triangle. Okay, so we're going to build an awareness of where we kind of sit sometimes in the drama triangle, and we're going to talk about the empowerment triangle. Okay, so we're trying to, it's that above the line, below the line. So the drama triangle is below the line. The empowerment triangle is above the line. So let's look at this. Oh, it's so nice. So in the empowerment triangle, you say, you know what? I'm in charge of what happens to my life. You say, I'm creating my new story. Me, I'm doing it. If I'm stumbling, if I'm having a hard time, if I'm hitting a roadblock, that's okay. I'm doing it, which means I have the power to change that. And isn't it nice to have a coach and a community of support and this life book to help us when we hit those roadblocks? I am open and curious to learn. Y'all, that little corner triangle was one of the hardest ones for me, because I was very closed off and very like, well, I'll believe it when I see it. And, when I started this journey, it took me 2 months to say yes to my friends. So I was very skeptical, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So putting aside that skepticism and becoming open and curious to learn, understanding that failure and obstacles are a gift, that they actually help me get better. If I don't hit an obstacle, then I don't know it's one of the things that's tripping me up. When I go, oh my gosh, I just fell over. What did that? Then I can go, okay, well, now I know I need to work on that. I need to get that out of the way, get that out of my way so I can go forwards. Those obstacles, we need them. If somebody goes along and does their little 5 and 1 perfectly and never has any obstacles, when they stop their journey, like if they didn't do this life book and they move on, you know what happens? They gain the weight back, because obstacles come that they weren't paying attention to, they hadn't built an awareness to, and that weight sneaks back on. So this is obstacles help me get better. I empower others to be successful. I love that one because, as we grow and we heal, we get excited about sharing that with other people. And that joy, that passion, that makes us want to do better. When we see that what we're doing is having a ripple effect, even if we don't mean it to, it just is in the world around us, then we think, well, I want to get better at this because I really want to be able to help even more people. I help others get better, and I'm creating my new story. Kenny?
And I think what you just touched on there, about empowering others to be successful, there's 2 or 3 different ways to look at that. So a lot of folks come to Optimal Awakenings and they ask questions, and many of you are so helpful to jump in there and give them all the answers. And I'll challenge every one of you that's here and or watching this to do this. You know, number one, if somebody's asking for what's your favorite shrimp recipe, don't just give them the answers. Show them where to go look for it. Hey, have you ever gone and hit the magnifying glass and type in the word shrimp? Or, that way they know where to go look for things. Instead of you, here again, if you're heroing them, that's below the line, you're giving them the answers, they'll never develop that muscle to go look for something. And here again, they'll stay stuck in their trenches of their narrow-mindedness when it comes to food choices. And maybe they're having a day where I want to try something different. I don't know what I want. If they don't know how to go search for it, they're just going to say, well, nobody's going to tell me what I want tonight, so I'm just not going to go look for anything, and I'll maybe make a poor choice. But that's where you, as fellow Optavians and clients, and even the potential of being a coach, you can show them and empower them where to go look for these resources at, because the Optimal Awakenings page is so underutilized, it drives me nuts. And, because people always ask questions, and the first thing I will say is, well, have you searched it on Optimal Awakenings? It'll be like, how do you do that? And we talk about that every week. And but that's one of the biggest things that I see so many people do, or they say, can I drink diet soda, for example? If you go to Optimal Awakenings, you can type in the word diet soda and you can get the answer. Can I drink water with whatever in it? You can go look that up as well. So there's pretty much nothing you can't look for on Optimal Awakenings page as a resource. So go ahead, Allie.
No, that's wonderful, Kenny. And that's so true. Again, like you said, instead of heroing, you're letting people go and develop the muscle of knowing where to find it on their own. I always say, as a coach, and I tell this to all my clients, my job is to make myself obsolete. I'm coming in to walk beside you, but if I'm doing it right, I'm equipping you to the point that you don't need me anymore. That is because I want you to be the master of your life, to be the builder of your dreams. I want you to have the confidence that you are Dorothy with the red slippers on. You got the power to do this all along. You don't really need the wizard to help you get home. You got this. So all I do, and Kenny and I do every week is, we all have this book. Kenny and I go through and we point out, what's really meaningful, what Dr. Anderson wants us to pull from this right here, things to think about, things for you to bring back to your coach. But our job is to empower you guys to know that and have the confidence that you're in control and you can do this. And so we're just telling you, these are the building blocks you want to focus on. So we want to focus on, and we're going to pause here, and we're going to pause here, Kenny, and we'll go on from page 112 next week, and we'll get into the whole stimulus response and the 3 parts of the brain. But this week, what I'd love y'all to do is just use this week to build an awareness of when you're being above the line or below the line. So below the line is when you're being in the drama triangle. Maybe you're like, oh, I just heroed right then. I didn't mean to. Victim, villain, hero. Or note when you are above the line and you're being creative, you're being open and curious, you're not getting defensive about things. Or maybe you're sharing with someone else, you're empowering them to do something that gives the power back within themselves. So I want you to think about that this week. Also, I would like y'all, if you have a chance, to go back. I think I said it was, part 1.6 in your Habits of Health book. You in charge of yourself, just seeing the evolutionary background of why we kind of have these autopilot settings, because I also want everyone to release the guilt, yucky talk of that inner voice that's like, golly, why are you so below the line? Allison, geez, what's your problem? We're just building an awareness. It comes from a biological setting that we have from ancient times. So we are taking our power back. We are learning when to notice that that's happening and to put ourselves in that empowerment triangle. And every time you do it, if you go, oh, I notice I'm doing that, I'm going to flip. Oh, I'm going to go back above the line. Oh, I'm going to go back above the line. All of a sudden, it's going to be your natural inclination to do that. You will recognize, that's not how I'm going to respond to that. I'm going to respond to it this way. And it just becomes part of your autopilot settings. And so it's a beautiful gift. I love it so much.